Loibner-Waitkus.
Okay, let's get started. This week I'm doing something a little weird where I'm also posting, since this chapter is so important, I'm posting some written notes on the website as well besides this video. But these videos, you need to read the textbook. It's not, up to me to tell you everything that's going on in the textbook. It's more to give you ideas to think about and discuss and all of that. So I'm breaking these up into two sections. First, key terms, things that you need to understand, definitions that you need to know, and I will generally give you the definitions on the slide, listed key terms, and then the second part will be think about it. That's what I call these questions, and these are questions that relate to what you've read, and hopefully you'll think about those and have developed a well thought out answer based on the text. And this is where I will probably draw your questions for your exam. So it's really important that when the slide comes up about think about it, that you look at these questions and be sure that you can answer them. So without further ado, let's go ahead and look at some of these key terms from chapter 1, which was American racism in the race in the 21st century. So let's begin off with the 5 fallacies about racism. The first key term is individualistic fallacy. And this is intentionality is in no way a prerequisite for racism. Racism often is habitual, unintentional, commonplace, polite, implicit, and well-meaning. Thus, not only is racism located in our intentional thoughts and actions, it also thrives in our dispositions and habits, as well in the social institutions in which we are all embedded. The second fallacy is the legalistic fallacy. The definition of it is, thus one who operates under the legalistic fallacy assumes that abolishing racist laws, racism in principle, automatically leads to the abolition of racism in everyday life. The tokenistic fallacy. One who is guilty of the tokenistic fallacy assumes that the presence of people of color in influential positions is evidence of the complete eradication of racial obstacles. And a great example of this that we've all heard is, we have an African-American president now, and so therefore there is no racism. And again, that would fall under the tokenistic fallacy. The ahistorical fallacy, and you hear this one a lot. Thinking hindered by the ahistorical fallacy makes a bold claim. Most U.S. history, namely the extended period of time during which this country did not extend basic rights to people of color, let alone classify them as fully human, is inconsequential today. So again, this is that idea that, well, just because we had slavery and just because we treated different races so poorly doesn't mean that we're racist today, because that's inconsequential. That doesn't matter. Again, that's another fallacy. And finally, the fifth fallacy is the fixed fallacy, and that basically states those who assume that racism is fixed, that it is immutable, constant, across time and space, and partaked in fixed reality. Your next key term is institutional racism. And institutional racism is systemic white domination of people of color embedded and operating in corporations, universities, legal systems, political bodies, cultural life, and other social collectives. Interpersonal racism is racial domination manifest in everyday interactions and practices. Symbolic violence is defined by Pierre Bourdieu as violence which is exercised upon a social agent with his or her complicity. Intersectionality. Intersectionality is the overlapping system of advantages and disadvantages that affect different people positioned in society. And now under a biological reality, you need to know 2 terms. Genome, which is a combination of the words gene and chromosome of an organism, is the collection of that organism's entire hereditary information encoded in deoxyribonucleic acid, or as we call it, DNA. So what is DNA? It's deoxyribonucleic acid. Sorry for my stumbling over that. And it's made up of genes or single gene units of hereditary information and is responsible for an organism's biological development. It's important here to remember that we share 99.9% of the same genes with other human beings. So African American, Caucasian, all of those things. An important term that you really need to know is white privilege. And this is a simple definition, but white privilege is going to be an important aspect of this class. White privilege is the collection of unearned cultural, political, economic, and social advantages and privileges possessed by people of Anglo-European descent or by those who pass as such. Race. Race is a symbolic category based on phenotype or ancestry and constructed according to specific social and historical context that is misrecognized as a natural category. There's a symbolic category, which is something that is actively created and recreated by human beings rather than pre-given. Pre-given means something that objectively exists and has simply to be assigned a name. Phenotype. Phenotype is a person's physical appearance and construction, including skeletal structure, hair, height, eye color, and skin tone. Ancestry is a person's lineage, which often includes tribal, regional, or national affiliations. Ethnicity is defined as a shared lifestyle informed by cultural, historical, religious, and/or national affiliations, whereas nationality is defined as equated with citizenship, membership in a specific politically delineated territory controlled by a government. And then finally, sociological imagination is one's ability to understand everyday life, not through personal circumstances, but through the broader historical forces that structure and direct it. Okay, so those are the important words. Now, again, those all tie into important concepts that you need to understand. And so, hopefully you'll look back through those and see where those tie into the different sections and what they relate to in what you have read. Now, on the think about it slide, I want you to look at these questions. And one more time, these are the things probably from which I will draw your essay questions for your exam. And remember, your exams are made up of essay questions, so I could ask any of these questions or a combination thereof. And with those answers, not only do I want you to be able to answer it, but I don't just want your opinion there. I want you to pull from the text and tie it into your opinion. And so here is a list of things that you need to think about that could possibly be test questions. Number one, how is racism like a cancer? Number two, what are some examples of institutional racism and interpersonal racism? Number three, what are some examples of symbolic racism you may see in your everyday life? Number four, why do you think people make a connection between different races and sports? Number five, what are some examples of whiteness being held up as the status quo? Number six, do you notice any examples of white privilege in everyday life? And if so, what are they? Number seven, phenotype or ancestry. Which do you think people use more to determine race? And number eight, why can we regard race as well-founded fiction instead of natural? So go ahead and read the chapter. Be sure that you read, which you should have read by now, be sure you read my notes that I posted as well, besides just the video notes. And I will get back with you next week.